So as you can see, I finished making a mess. I planted my Jackson and Perkins bare root roses in containers. And so I'm going to show you how I did it. So stay tuned and watch the video. Okay, so my bare root roses have been soaking for over 24 hours and the roots are nice and hydrated now. So this will actually help them. So the longer you actually hydrate them, actually it's recommended 2 days to do this, the better. So nonetheless, these are really hydrated roots. These came very moist from Jackson Perkins, so I think that this is fine. So what I'm going to do is, since I ran out of room in my yard to plant them in the ground, I'm going to plant them in large containers like this size. And this is about a 15-gallon pot. Now, if you're going to container grow your roses, I suggest you not use a pot that's smaller than 15 gallons. If you're going to put it in a small 5-gallon pot, you're really going to hurt yourself because you're going to have to transplant it quick. They grow very fast and the roots really need to go deep. So a 5-gallon pot or smaller, or even a 10-gallon pot or smaller, really is not going to help your cause. You're going to end up having to pull them out and replant them anyway, unless you only want roses for a short period of time. So what I need to do is use really, really good organic soil filled with lots of probiotics and alfalfa meal, fish bone meal, kelp meal, bat guano, worm castings, all that good stuff. And I need a light and fluffy soil. Now, most of the stuff you buy from the big box store is very heavy. Even if it says potting soil, you really do need a potting soil because it's a lighter soil. Now, the only really good soil I was able to get was planting mix, and that's a heavier soil, which is really not good for pots. They were out of the potting soil. So, but I don't like the big box brands like Miracle Grow, Stay Green, Kellogg, and all those other ones. They're really not good. They're really filled with a lot of chemicals and sludge and slurry, and it's really not a good growing soil for your roses or any plants for that matter. So you really, if you're going to really be serious about growing your roses, you need a better soil. So I need to make a light and fluffy, airy soil filled with lots of nutrients to help along these bare root roses. And so now I need to concoct my own mix. So I'm going to take this, dump this out on a tarp. I got a tarp because I don't have a wheelbarrow to mix my soil, and I'm making a holy mess as it is. So this tarp will help it be less of a cleanup at the end. So stay tuned while I get everything and all my ingredients, dump out the soil and mix it up and show you how I do it. Now, since I wasn't able to get potting soil in this brand, Dr. Earth's, it's very hard to get the better soil. A lot of gardeners grab the good stuff, and the big box stores usually don't sell this, so I had to order it online and ship to my local Ace Hardware. But since it was like everybody was grabbing bags of soil and having it shipped to the store, they ran out of potting soil. And you need potting soil when you're planting in containers or pots because you don't want a heavy soil. So since this is planting mix, I have to lighten it up, and I'm going to have to mix it with like 25 probably or 30% peat moss and add some extra nutrients to it. And so I just wanted to show you how heavy the soil is. I don't know if you can see it, but this is like, it's like really heavy. It weighs 40 pounds, this 1.5 cubic foot bag, and that's way too heavy for my pots. It's just like really, really heavy compacted soil. You don't want heavy duty soil because it's going to compact your roots. Your roots are going to choke and they're going to actually drown when it gets really wet out. So if it rains hard, this soil is way too heavy. So I'm going to lighten it up and fluff it up. So stay tuned and let me show you what I do with the peat moss and all the other mixtures. So I'm starting out with 1.5 cubic feet of soil, which is one of these bags. And the reason why I chose Dr. Earth was because it's not really bad soil or mix like the stuff you buy in the big box stores. I had to order this specially. And since this already has a lot of nutrients in it, I don't have to put that much of each ingredient in. So for example, this has, let me show you the list. Where the heck is the list now? Of course I can't find it when I need it. Oh, here we go. It has forest humus, fir bark, peat moss, worm castings, alfalfa meal, kelp meal, soybean meal, fish bone meal, aloe vera, yucca extract, seaweed extract, oyster shell and dolomite limes, and mycorrhizae and beneficial microbes. So we're not going to have to put that much stuff in it. Now, if you bought the stuff from the big box store, even with the fertilizer, you need to add as much organic nutrients and minerals into your soil. So I don't have to do that much, but so I have a little hydrated lime, bone meal, blood meal, perlite, which helps your roots actually get aerated, and it doesn't actually like choke your roots. So this is going to help make this fluffier and lighter. I have some super mix, which is all natural. It's compost basically. I have vermiculite, which helps also air out the pots and helps the soil cling on to all the nutrients so it doesn't like really come out of the bottom holes of the pots. And that's one thing you really need. You need to have holes drilled in your pots so it can drain well. Well-drained pots are an essential thing to growing container plants. So I also have a little bit of rose and flower mix. Now, we're not going to put a lot of this stuff in because it's already in the soil. We're just going to put a little bit, and I'll show you how much. I also have worm castings. Worm castings is wonderful for your plants. It really helps feed your soil and helps condition your soil and gives lots of nutrients and minerals and food to your plants. And you can never use too much of this stuff, so you don't have to worry about putting too much of it in your soil. So let me get started and mix everything up. And I'm going to probably put 1/4 of a cup of bone meal in, 1/4 of a cup of blood meal, a tiny little handful of the lime, about 3 cups of perlite or 4, about 1/2 cup to a cup of this super mix with all these beneficial things in it, vermiculite about 1/2 cup to a cup, and about 1/2 cup of this stuff, and as many as 3 or 4 cups or even more of the worm castings per pile. So let me get started. And oh, also I forgot to mention peat moss. I'm going to put a lot of peat moss in here, at least I'd say 40% peat moss, 30 to 40%. This will make the soil much lighter and fluffier. So it won't be too heavy in my pots, and it'll help retain the moisture. And also it'll actually help to expand the amount of soil I have here to make a larger amount of soil. So stay tuned and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done fluffing and mixing everything up. So here's my mound of potting mix and ingredients, and I have a tough road ahead of me. I'm out of breath already trying to mix all this stuff together. You can take a garden hoe or a rake, or I don't know, whatever you want to use. I'm using gloved hands right now because it's helping get this mixed up really quick. And so I'll show you when it's done and all mixed up what it looks like. Stay tuned. So as you go along and you mix everything up, you can add more stuff to it. So I'm still not liking the consistency of the soil. It's really heavy soil still. So I'm going to throw a couple more cups of peat moss into this mix and make it lighter and fluffier. We don't want to weigh those roots down and get them all compacted in these pots. So hang in there. So my soil's looking richer and richer. As I mix the ingredients, I just added more perlite to make it lighter and fluffier. And hang on one second and I'll show you at the end what the consistency of this soil is. So let me show you the consistency now. And as you go along, you can keep adding and mixing different elements to the soil to make it the way you want it. And you need it light and fluffy, where it retains moisture but breaks up easily. See how it goes right through my fingers? That's the type of soil you're looking for. And again, when you ball it up, you don't want it to stay that way and be hard and compacted. You want to be able to just break it up with your fingers. So we got a good consistency potting soil right now. And now I'm going to plant my bare roses, and I'll show you how that's done. So when you get almost 3/4 of the way up the pot, you can form a cone if you're planting bare root roses. And I'll show you why in a second. So you're going to form that cone because you see how the roots are cone shaped? So you place it over the cone, and then you can anchor it into your soil better. So let me just add more soil to this rose, and I'll show you when it's all done being potted up. So after I placed the rose on the cone, I gave it a little push down as I added soil. I pushed it down with my hand to squeeze out all the air bubbles, and then I added the soil up into about this line, where the plant meets the bud union, where the roots are. And that should be the perfect spot. Now I have to give this plant, which is called Walking on Sunshine, a good drink of water. And I got to keep these roots very moist over the next few weeks in order for the roots to take onto the soil and for this plant to grow. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Sorry if it was a little boring, and have a great day.